Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today we have Maria Esther Gbot. Maria, welcome, and can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited. As you said, my name is Maristher Guevara. I am Ecuadorian and I have a master's in environmental management. And I've been working in environmental certification for the past 2 years and a half, where I focused on the wood, paper, and palm oil industries. And parallel to that, I've been working with the fashion industry, doing some projects about circularity and innovations to make the industry a little bit more ethical and sustainable. And this week, I started a new job as a sustainability specialist in a biofuels company. So I'm still going to be working with suppliers, doing some audits, but now I'm going to be able to also have more of a hands-on participation with strategies and project management.
Excellent, excellent. And as I ask everyone that comes on, what's your definition of sustainability, and then what are your top two SDGs?
Okay, so my definition of sustainability is that we as individuals in the present consume and use the resources in a way that doesn't jeopardize the ability of the future generations of using those resources the same way. When people ask me about this, I always remember a conversation that I had with a friend a while ago that said that he believes that immortality would be the answer to people being more sustainable and caring about climate change, because if we were immortal and we knew that in 100 years we will still be living, maybe we would care a little bit more about our planet and about our resources. We would make sure that we still have what we need to live. But sometimes it's difficult for people to make that connection and know that, yeah, you might not be here, but the kids are still going to be here, or maybe your grandkids are going to be here. So I feel like sometimes it's difficult for people to remove from that selfish or survival mode and think that there are a lot of future generations coming, and it's not another part of my definition of sustainability, at least, is being more holistic about the way that you see things, and not only think about the humankind but also think about nature and the animals that have the same rights to be in the earth, and they also have the same rights to take advantage of the resources that we have here. And in terms of my two SDGs, I think one of them would be climate action, because I think that covers a lot of the other needs that the world has right now. With if you focus on climate action, you can focus on water, and you can also focus on sustainable development and helping people getting out of poverty, and you can focus on reducing your consumption, on a more circular economy, on being innovative. And I think the other one would be reducing inequalities, because I feel like that would be the social complement to the climate action one, thinking about how we can make more people participate. There are a lot of people that have great ideas, but sometimes they don't have the opportunities, or they are not taken into account depending on the background that they have or the culture where they are living. So um, giving the opportunity to receive all this feedback and let other people participate might give us great ideas to achieve big things.
Excellent, excellent. You make an excellent point in that, we need to take a closer look in terms of sustainability and climate change for our children. And I'll be completely honest that I was pressing the gas a little bit harder. Once my daughter was born, she'll be 9 months next month, and that's my mindset. It's like I don't want her. I mean, she was was born in the COVID era, right? And it's like if you think about it, you don't want her daughter or son to grow up in an environment like that. That's the way I look at it. And if we don't address our issues, if we don't right our wrongs, you know the, I don't even want to imagine the world that we're gonna grow old in, if you will. So, and that's where that's where my mindset comes into play. When people say I'm a little abrasive when it comes to sustainability and things like that, but you have to. I mean, all being nice and subtle and things like that. We've tried that for years. We've tried that for decades. It hadn't worked,
Yeah.
right? So, and it's like it's kind of like, you need these climate change activists to make a change. And I mean, that's where I think we're gonna actually I think we're gonna see some good things come out, with the new administration in the coming years.
Yeah, hopefully. I feel like also I feel that also this pandemic has given us the opportunity of restarting our practices or seeing things in a different perspective. There are a lot of industries that have been hit by COVID, and this is the perfect opportunity for them to come back to life, but with different practices, taking into account what the needs are right now and what the responsibilities are, and taking this opportunity to do a whole redesigning of the business model and be more caring about the future and about the environment that we have around us.
So I've been so I reached out to you because I seen that you were an auditor. I just want to know what is it like in what's the day in the life of an auditor? Have there been some situations that were, because I always say that, people within the supply chain have so much to hide in some industries. So, first off, what's the day in your life? And second off, have you been faced with some some situations, I'll put it.
Okay, so well, a normal day when you have an audit scheduled. Well, let's backtrack a little bit to the moment that you reach out to the client. So the certifications that I do are voluntary, which means that the clients are choosing to do it for corporate sustainability or strategies. Sometimes their customers are asking for that. So it's not that you just show up and do an inspection. That's usually the certifications or the standards from the government. But when we are talking about certificates like fair trade, organics, FSC, RSPO, all of them are voluntary. So the clients want to be audited. So you reach out to them, schedule an audit, send them an audit plan with some time of ahead so they can know what the activities are going to look like, and then you show up that day. Usually start in the morning because you never know how it can go. There are a lot of clients that are on top of everything. There are other clients who just are doing their things, and then you show up and they try to accommodate you somewhere and you start the audit. So depending on the requirements of the standard, as an auditor, you usually do three different things, mostly three different methods, which is document review. Make sure that they have their procedures in place. You take a sample of, again, depending on the certificate, you can take a sample of paperwork to see what's going on, sales, documentation or supplier documentation, or a sample of certificate of analysis or whatever the standard is looking for. Then you do some interviews because one of the most important things of auditing is that you triangulate your evidence, and which means that if you find something in your procedures, if the procedures are good but nobody can talk about those procedures, so people are not following those practices, and they have good procedures, but are they actually in compliance? Or if people know what they are doing but there's nowhere written what they are doing, it's a little bit of a red flag for you. If that person leaves, are they still going to keep the same good practice? So you talk to the people who are responsible for the specific control points. It's usually a control point is usually the areas in the facility that handle the certified material. Receiving, purchasing, sometimes even marketing can be one, because they are the ones that are doing all the propaganda of the certification. And then you do a tour, usually, again, depending on the certificate. You usually do a tour to verify that the practices, that everything that they have told you is what they are actually doing. And yeah, as you were saying, there is a lot of controversy with voluntary certifications, with the scheduling and audit. Like, how do you know that they are actually doing things right, or that they are just not painting a nice place to work the day that you are going, that they are not hiding anything? And, you know, I feel like part of the auditor's job is also to, you are there to prove compliance. You are not there to prove otherwise. Like, you're not there chasing them or looking to find what's wrong. You're there because you believe that they are doing it right. And I feel like that's a very good mindset, because audits can be very stressful for everybody. The certificate managers and all the people in the facility are super stressed, and sometimes just by seeing an auditor or knowing that they are being audited, they might not tell you the correct thing. Like, they might get too nervous, and then they just give you a terrible interview when they have been doing that for 20 years and they've been doing it correctly. So I think that it's very important at the beginning to set this a scenario where you are there just to verify compliance. And of course, if there is something wrong, you raise it at that moment, but you are not there to prove that they are committing fraud or that they are doing things that are not okay. So depending on the certification, there are a lot of ways to figure out if they are not doing things right, you know, if they are hiding something, or if that's not their day to day, or if that's not normal to them. You can figure that out very easy by choosing a sample, because you usually choose a random sample of documentation to review that moment. So they need to give you that, like, they don't know what you're gonna choose. So they need to, and you are the one who choose, usually by number or by months or however you want to do it. So it's difficult for them to know exactly what you're gonna look for. And if it's wrong, then it's wrong. Like, there's nothing that they can do. And when you are interviewing people, you ask their managers to stay away so you can have a more honest discussion with them and make sure that they are not being guided by the manager for responses, and that they actually know what they are doing. And you know, I feel like it's very important the way that you ask things, because if you ask them close-ended question, I don't know, tell them, do you review that the supplier invoice says RSPO, or you don't? That's like, you're already giving them the answer, you know. But if you ask them, okay, tell me, what do you do when you are expecting a fair trade material coming in? Like, what would you do? What's the process? And then they tell you what they are doing, and then you can figure out if they are doing it correctly or not. And I've had some difficult companies that I've worked with. Most of them, again, since this is a voluntary thing, are very willing to do it. Some of them are very stressed, but still have willingness to do it. But sometimes there are companies that have had an issue with their customers or with their certificate, and they are not happy about it. I remember there was a time that one of the certification managers I was auditing didn't want to do a tour with me, and he was super rude. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to present any documentation. He was the owner of the company, and then his wife came in, and like he was shouting at her. It was difficult, and at that point, you just remind them that this is a voluntary thing. Like, they can cancel it whenever they want. They're like, I was there just because they wanted me to be there, you know. There are other clients that are very big, have all the procedures ready to go, and they think that since they have the procedures, they can adapt those procedures for them to be in compliance with standards. So sometimes, I don't know, you get to their first audit and they just start showing you procedures from other certificates or from other compliance, and they are like, oh yeah, this can be in compliance with what you're looking for, and you know that that's not true, that they actually need to go through the standard and make the procedures that make them actually compliant. So there is a lot of that, but the majority of them are pretty on top of things, and as I am saying, are willing to do this because there is another interest behind.
Right. That was very easy. So for that one, the one owner that was upset, you were saying that you think that he had something to hide, or he was just getting bombarded with a bunch of questions that he didn't have
You
an answer
know,
to.
he didn't, I don't think he did, but he was trying, like he was teasing me. He was like, oh, how are you going to make sure that what I am actually presenting you is correct, and what I am that I am not hiding anything? And I'm like, I am trusting you. Like, you are telling me right now that you're sort of like whispering that you're hiding something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's something going on, it's something wrong here. You know, that audit didn't get to a conclusion. Depending on the certificate, again, depending on the scheme, there are steps to follow. So in the case that the auditor doesn't feel comfortable by um, giving a recommendation for the certification, there is a protocol that you can follow for more investigation, and that's the certification body that takes care of that. So they do a further investigation with the scheme already to see what's wrong, you know, and figure out if like the client wasn't willing to share something because something was wrong. I think it also depends on the risk. In this case, the company was sourcing reclaimed material. So we weren't talking about any virgin material that could come from illegal sources or something like that. It was all recycled. So the risk is a little bit lower. I could read that he just wanted to make it difficult for me, that he wasn't really hiding, but still, like, the process that followed was me asking the certification body to do a further investigation
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
process, because we couldn't finish the audit.
yeah. Interesting, very interesting. So you say that all of these audits are voluntary. Now, one thing that I always discuss, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is that, with the sustainability reports coming out, with the voluntary sustainability reports coming out, within the United States, I'm on the side of those sustainability reports should be audited. You know, and have you received any kind of request for audits for those? Like, in terms of, okay, we're about to release a sustainability report, but we want a third party to audit that this report is correct, and also look at our operations to confirm the validity of our sustainability report. Do you do anything like that?
That's a very good idea. I haven't heard of that, but I think it would add a lot of legitimacy to the sustainability reports, having someone else just take a look on that and certifying that everything is clear. Yeah, we haven't gotten those requests, but I think it's a great idea.
Okay, we're gonna start a new company. But anyway, but that's one thing. That's one thing that I've been talking about at a lot of conferences, because I still think, just because those sustainability reports are, voluntary, that's the first thing that pops into my mind. It's like a check the box thing, and I think that we need some third parties to audit those particular reports and audit those processes. So can you talk a little bit about, some of the things you're doing in terms of, the fashion industry and the circularity within the fashion industry?
Sure. I am working right now with an NGO called Fashion for Development. So what we're doing together is we are coming up with innovations for the fashion industry. This idea that I told you at the beginning, that there is this opportunity of resetting the field and the industry, comes from this project. We've been working in creating white papers to show the fashion industry that there are opportunities to do things more sustainable and more ethically. For instance, in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, Fashion for Development did a panel in Davos in the World Economic Forum, where we presented a white paper that was basically a compilation of the newest solutions for the fashion supply chain in terms of transparency and circularity, new fibers, new ways of dyes or recycling, or all those very innovative things. We sort of put them together in a paper to share with the industry, for them not to have to look everywhere, so we could basically centralize everything. We've been working, we have other projects that are related to that, trying to help the industry right now, because we know that it's struggling a lot with COVID, especially. People don't want to go to the stores anymore. All the supply chain has been very affected with cases and all of that, and people don't want to spend money. So we're trying to take this momentum to help them restarting their practices and doing things different. And this all started because when I was in my master's, I did another research with another fashion company about their lessons learned from the sourcing of cocoa and coffee and how those could be transferred into the fashion industry. So what this company wanted to do also was to share these lessons learned and show that there are other more mature commodities that have been successful with sourcing and being more engaged with their suppliers and having more transparency in their supply chains.
Excellent, excellent. So what's your new role, you know, and focused on biofuels? I'm very interested in hearing more about that. Can you
Yes,
expand on that a little bit?
I'm very excited. It's my first days in this new role.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. It's the company is called Neste. They are a Finnish company that is doing biofuels, and at the same time they are also doing some research to come out with an alternative to have plastic that's 100% free from oil. So on the side of the biofuels, we source used cooking oil and any other waste, animal fat and all of that, to transform it into biodiesel and jet fuel. So the model of the company is to source the waste and give that waste a new beginning. And from what I am learning, the biodiesel can reduce up to 80 or 90% of the CO2 emissions compared to normal diesel. And the jet fuel can reduce up to 80% of the emissions. So it's a lot. And so I'm very excited because I grew up in the transportation industry. My mom has a magazine for the transportation industry. So being able to go back to that and now work in a company that's gonna help changing the future of transportation is really nice. I am very excited because in the past they were an oil company, and then they decided to switch their whole business model to be sustainable. So I'm part of the sustainability team, but sustainability is in the whole DNA of the company. Sustainability is their business model. So it's exciting to know that despite I am in a team that does specifically sustainability, the rest of the teams are also focusing on that.
Yeah, I'm looking them up right now. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some nightly reading on that company for sure. So for startups that want to initially create these voluntary audits, because although we think we think we're going to be sustainable, there's always room for improvement, right? We always need to strive for continuous improvement. And that's one thing I always say whenever you read those sustainability reports. If everything's squeaky clean, that's when you need to start asking questions, because there's always room for improvement. So for those organizations looking to do something like this, what piece of advice or pieces of advice would you give to those companies?
I think the first one would be not to get discouraged by the requirements, because what I have seen is that when companies are starting to get certified and they receive the standard and they see all the different requirements that they have, they think that they are not going to be able to make it, or that it's going to take a long time from their day to focus on the specific requirements of the standard. When, to be honest, it's not that true, because if you are doing your practices correctly already, then applying them or adapting them to the standard shouldn't be that difficult. So not getting disencouraged by that. I think that you can take it step by step. Sometimes standards ask you to be more careful with tracking your volumes or tracking your suppliers, tracking your customers and all of that. And that can be a little bit of a pain and time consuming, but at the end of the day, you figure out that that's not only to be in compliance with the standard, it can also help you being more efficient or improving your practices as a company. And then the other thing is, again, don't get disencouraged about the cost of the audit, because sometimes audits can be costly, depending again on the standard, on the different.
How much you talking costly?
I never charge, like, I don't know the total amount, but when I was doing research, when I was in my master's doing research about certification, the main thing that I would hear, or the majority of smallholders would complain about the cost of the audit. So smallholders, and for instance, as a response to that, there are a lot of schemes that have developed a group certification, which means that smallholders up to a specific amount of money and employees can get together and sort of chip in to be able to afford the audit and the certification. So it is a known issue. It's not something that I'm just bringing up. It's something that happens with smallholders, but again, like, there are opportunities, or sometimes, depending on the scheme, again, if there is not an opportunity of a group certification, sometimes the audit cost can be reduced because of the size that you are. It, like, that shouldn't be a disencouragement, you know. And I think that the most important part is that you need to do it because you believe in it. Because I've seen that there are some companies that do it just because their customers are asking for it, or because the government is asking for it, or someone else. There is an outside factor that is triggering them to do it. And that's fine, but the problem is that when that happens, and then they lose that customer, or they move to a different country, or the regulations change, they just drop the certification, which sometimes sadly means that they also drop the practices, the good practices. So the good practices don't remain because they were just doing it to be in compliance with the certification. So I think the most important thing is that you have to do it because you mean it. And the certification may be an add-on for you to have a bigger market, for you to have access to a specific customer and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you are really sustainable, getting the certification should only be an extra for the reputation or for the market, but it shouldn't be the reason why you're changing. Like, getting the certification shouldn't be the reason why you're changing your practices. It should be that you're actually committed with the environment and with doing things right.
Excellent, excellent. So as we wrap up, are there any exciting things you have on the horizon? Where do you think this sustainability vision is going? And finally, where can people find you?
So exciting things. I hope that, as we were saying, that with COVID, companies start taking the environment more seriously. I've seen that with this new administration also, companies are starting to pick up their sustainability commitments. I saw that Nestle did a new commitment in December, and there are so many things going on. I feel like in terms of innovation, there are so many startups that are coming with great ideas, like alternative fibers. I've heard of a company that's using wood fiber to do fabric, and for instance, Nestle is looking for a way of getting rid of oil in plastics and all of that. So I think that the future comes with a lot of innovation, and us being able to adapt to the fast change. Because as you were saying, all this time we've been doing very patiently, and we've been very passive in terms of asking for a change, but it seems like now things are getting a little bit faster, and we need to be able to adapt to that. And well, I am in LinkedIn as Maristher Guevara, Maristher, and Guevara. And I think that's the easiest way to find me. And then if someone is interested in talking to me, we can connect and I can give them my email.
Thank you for that. And thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences, because this is one topic that we discuss often, and we really haven't had anyone that's been in that particular practice. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time.
Thank you.
All right, see you.